Hi, everyone. Welcome to The Tea. This is episode 2, and this episode is called Real Talk because we're going to be talking about some real things that happened in the media over the past week. We'll be having a open discussion about 3 major events that have happened in the media this week. So if you're interested, please stay tuned and make sure that you subscribe to my blog, indigochild.online. So today we're going to be talking about the mass shooting that just happened in Orlando, Florida, Sunday at Pulse nightclub. Now this mass shooting has been in the news for a couple of days now, and it's like a really big story. A lot of people are talking about it. A lot of people are looking at it from a bunch of different aspects. Some people are angry that this happened at a LGBT nightclub. They're viewing it as a hate crime. Other people are angry because they feel like the shooter was a terrorist, and now they're lashing out at ISIS and Muslims. And now there are also people who are questioning our laws. They're wondering why gun control isn't being mandated, more effectively. Why are so many people having access to firearms, like the ones that the killer used to shoot and kill over 50 people and to injure even more than that?
I guess involving the LGBT community, that's something that I found myself more active in over the past few years. It started out going to the Outfest in October 5 years ago, so I was really only like 14 or 15, and I saw okay, this community is really fun, everybody's really interesting, and then I've become more actively involved in maybe, different activities that my friends invited to, and then after seeing it on the news, I started to really think about it and realize that more than half of my friends are a part of that community, and more than half of my friends were affected by that. And that not only could it have been one of them, it could have been me because of how much I go out with them. They say, let's do this, and it could either be something that's filled with fun or a fun evening like a dance club, or it could be a community event, which it could have happened at anything. Because a church, a movie theater, a nightclub, it's happening everywhere, and for him to target that specific group is a really big deal. There are a lot of people who participate in that, and it's starting to hurt people who are not even a part of that community, people who just support it, people who wanted to be there to offer a hand to those people, and they're being backlash for that as well.
Yeah, I actually saw a story where a guy and his mom were out at Pulse nightclub dancing, and the mom actually was shot and killed, and the son survived. So imagine something like that happening to your family. That's there's so many different layers to it, because as the son you may have guilt because your parent was out and they were in support of you, and they passed away because they were just out having a good time with you. And so it's probably guilt there. Of course, he's grieving the loss of his mother. And then this whole tragedy, I'm pretty sure all of the people who were involved are going to have some kind of post-traumatic stress disorder now. So it's just crazy. I just really think that was really, really, really hard to deal with. It was very hard for me to hear that story in particular.
Yeah, I feel like it's very unfair for a whole community to have to go through that. A whole people shouldn't be targeted just because of something that they have that's different. You know what I mean? That's just so unfair. And I know a lot of people. The thing that I found the good in the situation where was the few people that kind of were active in trying to help other people escape, or trying to help other people out. I think that really does show in times of need it's always going to be somebody there for you. So I mean, the situation is very gruesome, it's very harsh, but I feel like that's kind of the good part about it. Just knowing that it is people out there that is good enough to, try to help and protect or do whatever that they could to save lives, no matter who it is.
One thing that I also wanted to mention too was that the motives really are still unclear, even though it happened at LGBT nightclub. It's still not clear as to whether that person was targeting the LGBT community specifically, because of course he can't testify because he's dead now, so no one can really get his side of the story. But I just find it very ironic that he chose that place out of all the places that he could have chosen.
Right. I think it's weird that it's being seen. I mean, he did specifically go after LGBT bar and community, but a lot of people, I feel like that's like the same way that people are kind of trying to pin it to the Muslims or just pin it on gun violence. It's like, it's not one real problem. The first issue that people are addressing it is the fact that they're calling it a gay club, when I think during the daytime hours they have regular club hours. But do you say it's regular club hours, or do you call it straight club hours?
Right.
No, like people are just calling it a gay club.
Right.
Like, why can't those people don't see it as that? They're not saying I'm going to a gay club tonight. No, they're like, I'm just going to the club. And I think that's like that's kind of being used as a scapegoat for that as well. So that's why a lot of the motives are unclear on that. It's like, was it because he was homophobic, or was it because he was psychotic, or
Right.
is it because he had mental issues? Like, what is the real issue behind that?
Right.
Well, the story that we were just I think we read it or something a few days ago, where it said his wife
Oh yeah, when they said his wife kind of knew
that
he was playing it or something.
right, like he had went and got all this ammo or whatever, like the stuff that he was using, and she kind of knew about it, and now they're in like the wife and like the whole justice system is kind of like in this limbo, or as to if they should trial her, like put her on trial or not, because she knew, and I guess they feel like she could have prevented it.
Yeah. Now with that situation is like a little bit hard for me, because like how are we to know how that whole situation played down? Like they said that the wife tried to talk him out, but she couldn't talk him out, and then this tragedy happened. But what happened in that in between time? Did they have like an argument? Were they like separated for, not separated, but like were they like not together for a few hours before that happened? Like how was she to know after she tried to talk him out? How was she to know that he was still going to actually carry out with his plan? Maybe he, maybe she thought that he could have just been talking and not really being serious about carrying a plan out. So why should she be charged? It's not like she did it. You know what I mean? Like she probably could have prevented it if she would have called the authorities. But at the same time, how is she supposed to know that it was really going to even happen? She probably could have just been dismissing it, thinking that it would have never really played out the way that it did.
And like, who is to know that he didn't, plan to do something like this before and he never followed through with it? So that could be another reason why she was kind of like, never said anything.
Right.
Because this might, I don't know, but this might not be like new behavior.
Yeah.
Like he probably, I'm going to do this, and probably never did it like multiple times.
That's not normal behavior though. If you hear that someone, like, if you get mad at somebody or you really, really hate this one thing, do you think I'm gonna kill them? No, that would show, like, that's not how the average person handles situations. That's not, like, I feel like that's not normal behavior. I think that her even mentioning it to somebody that he does this abnormal behavior could have been preventative of this actual situation.
I think so in a way, but at the same time, like, because they were in a relationship and because they were intimate with each other, she probably didn't want to betray him and, you know what I mean, go to someone and tell someone something like that. That could have been an issue too. So who knows, like, I don't know. It's a bunch of issues.
Her part in the story is very like dynamic.
Yeah, because
It's very dynamic.
you kind of don't know everything that happened between them, like the entire interaction, or if it was like she tried to talk him out out of it maybe like a month ago. And then bam, that happened like a month later. It's like, whoa, I didn't know you were gonna follow through on that. Or if it was like hours before it happened that they had that conversation and she knew he was on his way to the club. Like if it was like that, I think she should have called the police. If it was where they were like, you know, arguing right away and he was storming out and she knew he was going on his way to do it, yeah. But if it was like maybe a few days prior that they had the conversation and it never was brought up again and then bam, this happened. It's like how she didn't know that was actually going to happen. Like it's not her fault. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know. That's just how I view it. But at the same time, I do see the importance of being proactive in a situation like that and saying something because it could have prevented it.
Yeah.
Like, it just depends on how it went down, in my opinion, like whether she should be charged or not. But like,
She might have also been afraid. I don't know if you read that article where she came out and said that he was abusive to her and the kids. I don't know how many kids they have.
yeah.
That's what I was thinking. Like she could have been afraid to turn.
Well, wait, I thought the ex-wife was the one that said,
Yeah,
she said it too?
I think what happened was that he was abusive towards the ex-wife, but she knew. Like she knew that he was abusive towards the ex-wife.
So she was saying, so she was also afraid.
Yeah.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. Part. Oh yeah, so that's another factor. She could have been afraid too. I just feel like with that situation, as far as the question of should the wife be charged or not, I feel like that was a little toughy. Like I don't know. That's a tough one.
Cause it's just like equally like on both sides, kind of like, you know what I mean?
Like yeah, she probably could have been the person to prevent this whole thing from even happening if she would have opened her mouth. But at the same time, she's only human, and how was she to know that this was going to play out,
Right.
like at all? And then the way it did, so it's kind of like hard. Like
I just think it's really unfair that the whole Muslim religion is kind of getting the fault or like the brunt of this. Like everybody's kind of classifying them into like one thing just because one person did this, or not just because one person did this, but because there were a few terrorist attacks and the people that did these attacks happen to be Muslim. But what a lot of people don't understand is that they have radical Muslims and then they have regular Muslims. So it's not fair that just because it's a very few bit of radicals that everybody in the Muslim religion gets like this like
tainted, like a tainted image.
like a tainted reputation. And the crazy thing about it is like the actual Islamic religion is so peaceful and it's so beautiful. Like if you really take your time out and get to like study it or even just read about it or know it or whatever, it's just so peaceful and it's so beautiful. Like so it's kind of like it gets this bad rep for no reason at all, just because a few people like it's crazy.
Yeah, I think it's like really crazy how the whole point of religion even came up. My thing is this: how do we even know that this guy is affiliated with ISIS? Like, where did that come from? So that's one thing that's just like making me question like the whole subject of the marriage. Like, why is this even an issue? How do we know that he was from ISIS? How do we know that? Secondly, there's a few things that I saw that kind of made me like raise my eyebrow. Like, I saw that in two pictures he had an NYPD shirt on. So it's like, that's ironic. He's in ISIS, but he has an NYPD shirt on. So that was a little bit ironic to me. So I'm like, how do we know where this guy came from, what his origin is, what his background is? Like, how do we know this? And why are we just so quick to say, oh, this is ISIS, oh, this is related to Islam, oh, the Muslims did it? Like, why? Because it seems like ever since 9/11 happened, like America's whole agenda was to like say that Muslims are against us and like they're terrorists. So like, I just feel like it's just going down that road. It's just like, oh, or who are we going to make the scapegoat now? I feel like that's just what it is.
I feel like in this situation, everybody is just like has to point fingers and has to put the blame on one group of people can't just be the actual circumstances. It has to be some outside force. You know what I mean?
Right. What do you think?
I think it goes from looking at background information on the person and trying to understand what they truly believe to the radical point where people just want to use that as an excuse or just want to put the blame on somebody or one person or an entire group. But something that I did notice about it, and I think it's actually a really interesting aspect of it, is that the Muslim community is speaking up and saying, no, we do not claim him, we don't want him a part of us. If he was truly a Muslim, he would be practicing these laws of peace. He wouldn't be involved in this. Yeah, it's like, I think that's really incredible. And I don't know, the whole idea of involving religion as an excuse is kind of annoying anyway, because that doesn't necessarily define who the person was. You can be a good Christian and have other issues. Like, you are, no matter what, like, you're human, you're gonna be who you are. What the Muslim was, being Muslim might have been something that he, I want to say, like, something that he claimed, but that doesn't mean that's who he truly was inside.
Right. Or he probably wasn't, it doesn't mean that he followed it to, like, followed it the way that it was supposed to be. He might have claimed Muslim, but like you were saying, it doesn't have to be like, he didn't a peaceful Muslim. And
I think ISIS actually came out and said he's not affiliated with our group. But also in the same sense thanked him. Like, they said he's not with us, but we appreciate what you're doing. And I think they tried to blame Muslims as well for the Boston bombing.
They did.
They said that it was related to Muslim terrorism, and they also came out and said, it was Al-Qaeda that came out and said, no, that wasn't us, but again, thank you.
Right. Well, you know what? It's funny to me because there's a whole lot of people that are saying that this is like an inside job. And so that would be interesting if it was.
That would be interesting.
It's the second major time.
Yeah, the second major time that it could have been an inside job and then it was blamed on the Muslims.
Yeah. So I just feel like it's like somewhat part of America's agenda, I guess. I don't know, it's sad, but like it's part of our way of thinking. Like, we want the Muslims to be against us. We just want to make them seem scary and.
Or maybe do we want to be victimized?
Yeah, we want to be victimized. That's America's way.
Like, that's what I'm thinking. Because it wasn't always the Muslims. Like, America's always been under attack. Like,
yeah, by somebody.
Somebody's always been attacking us.
Yeah.
But like,
A little bit of paranoia.
Yeah.
It was just cowardice, to say the least.
Yeah.
And it was at the last moment. It was right before he went in and did the attack that he claimed it. He called 911 moments before he went into that bar. So you decided at the last minute that I was going to do this act, but I don't want my name on it. I want to put somebody else's name on it. That doesn't make much sense.
Yeah. Oh yeah, this is another part that I heard too when he claimed that he was with ISIS, that he said that he wasn't against African Americans.
Oh yeah.
What do you guys think about that? You guys believe it, or do you guys feel like there was any relevance to that, or like what? What do you guys think about that?
I don't know. Like, I that's hard for me to say because on one hand it's just like I feel as though if you could like will go to the strengths of like I don't hate you, like this one group of people, I don't hate blacks or whatever. Why would you still slaughter them? Like, why would you still kill them? But then again, it's kind of like, okay, you did have a cause, so it's kind of like, well, everyone gets killed. But it's just like that. It's just that statement is just like questionable to me.
That's what I thought when I heard it. I was like, I don't know. Not saying I don't know if he said it or not, because look, I wasn't there. I'm not going to say what was said and what wasn't. But it's kind of like very ironic that that was even said. And it kind of makes me wonder, what do they have to do with anything?
Yeah, like, it kind of makes me relevant. He also, I think that doesn't make, that's kind of contradictory to being a part of ISIS because they hate everybody. They don't as funny as it is to say, they don't discriminate against who they hate. They hate everyone equally. So for him to say that is contradictory. And then also, I don't see the relevance because he did choose, I don't know if he necessarily chose what night. I don't know how in detail the plan was, but the night that it was carried out was primarily Latinos that were. So, and there were a good portion of African American who were a part of that, but I think it was just that they were there. I don't think it was that he, or maybe he did plan that. Like, who's to say that? I feel like that would have been specified as well. Like, I don't hate African American, but I hate Latinos, and that's why I chose this night. Like, there's not enough information on the plan, how detailed the plan was, and how in depth he went on it.
Yeah, again, that statement kind of threw me for a loop. I was like, and then it was said on like Fox, so I'm like, is this like a motive behind this?
That was your first mistake.
Yeah, like is this a motive behind this, Fox? You trying to clear your name, right? It's like I don't know if I can necessarily hold on to that one. Yeah, I don't know, but I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah, like for me, that comment, it just seemed to pop out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. It just, I didn't see the relevance. I was just like, okay.
yeah.
I think the fact that you said it was Fox makes it even less relevant.
Right.
Fox is the type of person, they're the type of organization that would be like, puppies die in car crash. African American maybe? And it's like,
Yeah, like,
where's the connection?
Right. So the last issue that was brought up by a lot of people is the issue of gun control. A lot of people are saying that more strict laws need to be implemented in order for us to not allow just anybody to be able to access these types of guns. I mean, the Orlando shooter, he had like a military type gun, and he like was able to kill 53 people in like a matter of a few minutes or hours, and it's just like crazy. Like, why was he able to have all that ammunition? Why was he able to kill that amount of people in that amount of time? And just why? Like, just why did he have all of those things? And he had more than one weapon. He had, from what I understand, it was 3 weapons, 2 guns, and one was, from what I understand, is like a bomb type of weapon. I'm not too sure about the 3rd one, but I do believe that it was a 3rd one. So, what do you guys think about gun control? What's your viewpoints on that?
I don't have a lot of information on how easily accessible guns are. I feel like it's definitely gotten easier over the years. I believe, like, I've heard people discussing that it does take a lot of time. You have to, and they do a very minimal background check on it. But other than that, I think that because he did intend to harm as many people as he did, yes, it was easier with a gun, but the guns don't necessarily, like, they're meant to be protection. Like, we are given that as a basic right in our amendments, and if he really wanted to, I mean, guns have made it, it's been, there's a history of it, there's a background of so many people who have committed crimes using guns, but then there's also backgrounds of people who use homemade bombs, and people just go off with knives, or like there are massacres that occur without guns. So I think it's kind of more of a testament to the mental health system in America, more so than it is gun control.
I can agree with that, and I for a long time I was really thinking that way too. But here recently, because we have had so many mass shootings, I'm starting to change my viewpoints a little bit, because I'm feeling like, yeah, because of the number of mass shootings that have been happening, it's just like starting to get a little bit ridiculous. Like, we've had the Sandy Hook, we had the shooting where the guy walked up into a church and just shot people up. The movie theater, it's so many other, Columbine, it's so many other, didn't something happen in a mall recently, like a mall?
Yeah, the mall in Tel Aviv.
Yeah. So it's like so many of them have been happening, and they all involve guns, of course. So it's kind of like, maybe like it's like a little correlation. Like maybe if we didn't have so many guns out there, it might be less mass shootings. Now, guns are meant for us to be able to protect ourselves. And so, you know, Nicole mentioned that you should be in the right mind state if you are someone who owns or handles a gun. But unfortunately, people don't monitor that. So if we had something where we had like a mental evaluation before giving a gun, that would be like perfect, but we don't have that. Sometimes it's just like a background check. Just because you don't have any criminal history doesn't mean that you're not freaking bananas. So it's just like, you know, why is it so easy for certain people to get their hands on certain things?
You actually like read my mind, because that's what I was thinking. I definitely think that there needs to be like a mental check, because it's not fair that these people could go out and buy guns and do mass shootings, and then when it comes down to get, you know, in trouble or get their sentencing, and they could claim insanity. Like, well, I get like why that can happen, but if they would have been checked out for before this whole thing happened, when they was getting their guns, this would have been prevented.
Yeah, we would have been able to screen out the insane.
Exactly, and if it did happen, then that gives that person like, oh, well, you can't claim insanity because you got a mental check when you purchased the gun. You know what I mean? So it kind of like, it would work like...
Well, they have this thing called momentary insanity. Yeah. I mean, I kind of believe in it, I guess, depending on the situation, but sometimes I feel like that term is abused.
Yeah, I mean, the term insanity isn't abused.
Yeah. Especially in the court of law.
Yeah, in the court of law, that's definitely abused. But I think that the whole like gun control situation, it definitely needs to be looked more into. Like, why is it the only time that we talk about gun control is when a massacre happens or like a group shooting? Like, it's plenty people that are, there's a lot of people that's committing suicide with guns, and you know that counts as gun control too. If that person is deeply depressed, why are they able to go get a gun? You know what I mean? That's harming themselves. And like a lot of the crime here is very like violent crime. So I don't think that gun control should just be brought up when a whole like a number of people are getting killed. I think that this is something that definitely, you know, seriously needs to be looked into like over a period of time. Everybody needs to sit down and really figure this out instead of just talking about it and then it kind of like fading away.
Yeah, that's something I know President Obama was really pushing for, and he did get like a lot of pushback because of that. Because again, people have guns, they want their guns, they have them, they feel like they protect them. You know, most people aren't going to go into a mall and shoot up the place. Like, so you know, those people are saying like, no, I want to keep my guns, and you know, so some people, you know, giving a little bit of pushback. But I do think that we will benefit from you know, more strict law on how people can access guns. I do think we could benefit from that. All right, so now we're going to switch gears and we're going to start talking about the situation that happened in Orlando again. This time it was in Disney World, a Disney World resort. There was a 2-year-old child and his family. They were in a body of water, a lagoon, and the 2-year-old child was carried away by an alligator, and a few hours later the body of the 2-year-old child was found and he was dead. Now, there are a lot of people who have a bunch of different opinions about this story. Again, there are some people who are very sad by the outcome. They're like, oh no, what happened to that little boy? You know, it's so sad what happened to that little boy, I should say. And so, you know, some people are really feeling sorry for the young man and the family. There are other people who are a little bit angry about how media is reacting to this story, because just last week there was a story where a little boy was trapped into a gorilla enclosure at a zoo, and you know, there was a whole big ordeal about it. The parents were getting background checks, and people were talking about the parents were being neglectful, and they just got so much backlash. And now people are feeling that this family isn't getting as much backlash as the other family, and they're wondering why. So it's a bunch of different things that are going on with this situation, but I guess today we're just going to focus on those two main things. Okay, so this is the story. Basically, the family, they were in a very shallow body of water. It was a lagoon. The area was restricted. It was a sign on the area that said no swimming. Most tourists and visitors who go to the place, they do adhere by the rules, and they do choose to stay out of that body of water. But for some reason, this family felt that it was necessary to go into this body of water. The child was about 10 feet away from the shore, so the child was pretty far out in the lagoon. And as the family played in this area, shortly after, the alligator came up, grabbed the young toddler, and drug him further into the lagoon. I think it was 15 feet into the lagoon. And the family was frantically searching for him. So a lot of people are questioning the family's choice in even going into this restricted area. They're saying, why were they even here? This is kind of putting your child in danger. And a lot of people are very upset that people aren't really questioning this part of the story. Why aren't people questioning why these people were even in this part of the water? You know, when we talked about the gorilla case, a lot of people were saying that the parent was neglectful because how did the child end up into the enclosure? Well, this time, some people could be saying, well, these people are clearly, blatantly putting their child in danger, because why were they even in a place that was marked restricted in the first place? So, what do you guys think? What's your opinion?
I totally agree. Like, I definitely do think it is child endangerment. Like, I think that the family chose to go into a restricted area, and I'm not saying that that's what they get. Like, that's not what I'm saying at all. But it's just like, people have to look at that aspect too. Like, it's not fair that the family with the gorilla case has to get, you know, background checks and extensive investigations done, but with this case, it's kind of like nothing happened.
It is still a relatively new story, so it could escalate to them having as much backlash as the mother from the gorilla incident. So, and luckily, out of the two stories, one of them did survive, but unfortunately they did lose a child. And that was something that they understood by putting their kid in a natural environment of a dangerous animal. Like, they knew, they were fully aware, they were American family, right? So
Yeah.
there was no reason why they couldn't read the sign and understand that. There would be no reason for them to get away with it, yet they are, yet they're kind of just being dismissed, like, sometimes it happens, and no, that doesn't happen. People don't often put their very young children in dangerous situations only to be let off with a slap on the wrist.
Yeah. I just felt like, as far as it being endangerment, yes, definitely they were putting their child in danger. But I also feel like, as far as if you relate it to the Harambe situation, one thing that is a key difference, and Nicole just touched on it, is that one child survived and another child didn't. And then the other thing is a very significant, or I guess you could even say historic animal lost his life because of the situation. So people were kind of more so, you know, rallying for justice for Harambe in that situation. So I can see why the backlash would be a little bit different. And I also thought that you made a good point when you said that since it's new, you know, more stuff can come out of it. So I do think that those are all really good points. But I just find it very ironic that this story is being portrayed differently. And I can't ignore the fact that there are two different races that we're dealing with here. the family that was involved in the gorilla incident, the Harambe incident, that was an African American family, and this family is a Caucasian family. So it's a little bit different, you know, the way the story is just playing out. Like the father in the gorilla situation, he had a criminal background, so his background was checked, and certain things were shown and kind of like put out there to kind of like diminish the importance of their story, or you know what I mean, or just show their story in a different light. And I feel like with this one, it's not so much that, and it could be because, all right, this family lost their child. Like, we're not going to be complete jerks to this family that just lost their child. And I do understand that aspect of empathy, but at the same time, when we look at it like from a less sympathetic standpoint, and we just look at it thinking more in logical terms, it's like kind of like it raises an eyebrow, because it's like, hey, like this something is not right here. Like this is not fair, or this is not equal. And so I think that that's the reason why a lot of people are like more so focusing on that and like bringing that up, because it's like, wait a minute, like something's not right here. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I mean, when you look at it from the human point of view, it does make more sense. Like this family actually did lose their child. So the backlash isn't going to be as, you know, forceful as the other one, because this family, they were able to save their child, and someone else or something, well not something, someone else, an animal in this case, had to lose their lives. So I can see the difference in that too. That does make sense.
I think something else that wasn't necessarily addressed on both issues, and when doing the comparison, is one of them is the two natures of the animal. One of them was raised in an enclosure. It was an endangered animal. It was well taken care of. Gorillas are understood to have some sort of psychological response to things. Like they are very aware. They're not animals that don't have thoughts. Like they are very mature intellectual animals. Mm-hmm. This other animal in the Orlando case was a wild animal.
Right.
It was a child being involved with a wild animal. There was no way to control that. And going off of that, where was security? In the gorilla situation, they were able to make a decisive. They decided that the best way to handle the situation was to kill the animal. Unfortunately, that it could have gone down differently, and they did have the option to do that. But where it's the zoo, I've never seen security. I don't really see a lot of employees that do survey the area, because it was built for us to have that own watch over it. Like we were supposed to know, okay, this was built for the protection of the children, for the protection of the viewers, and who would like to go to the zoo for a form of entertainment. But in the Orlando situation, not only did they put themselves in a dangerous situation, but they were able to go past any restricted zones. There was nobody watching them. There was no one to make any quick decision to shoot the alligator. There was no one around. They did this in a very secretive manner, and it also puts the question, how did they get back there? Why did nobody stop them? Why was there no aid to help them? Like they couldn't, even if they were screaming, there was no one to come over immediately. There was no response for it.
Yeah.
Like, how secure is this park that gets many more viewers, many more visitors than zoos?
Yeah.
Just because we did choose to build societies upon where these animals did reside, these dangerous animals. Things like spiders just are naturally known. They go into your house. There's nothing you can do about that. Bugs, things like that, other dangerous creatures. But I would never expect to be attacked by a wild animal in an area that is supposed to be human friendly, human safe.
Yeah, I think that's more so kind of like Disney's part that they gotta take it. Like they have to make sure that every single inch of their park is safe for any human. You know what I mean? So like I get, and yeah, like they do have the signs like you said, but a lot of people do not read. And what if the sign might not have been like right there? You know what I mean?
Yeah, some people do walk right
Some
past
people
signs.
walk right past. Some people are very oblivious, especially now. Like some people are very oblivious. So I think I feel like a physical barrier would have been the best bet to ensure safety. It's like y'all have all these staff on guard, like regulating people, but y'all like drop the ball with this situation.
Like, maybe nobody saw them. Maybe it was people there.
And what I'm saying is if it was a physical barrier, people wouldn't have.
Yeah, no, I agree about that, but about the physical barrier part. But I'm talking about with the person there to stop them.
Yeah.
Like, if no one saw them, or if they like entered it through a way where maybe nobody had noticed right off the bat.
See, the whole thing is like, why would you sneak into a restricted area? Like, I know people do it, but it's just like,
Well, I don't know if they snuck into it, because again, like we just said, they could have been totally oblivious to the fact that it was a restricted area. But like, I don't know. It's
I
a
wish I had a
hard
picture of it to see like how far did they really have to go to get that part, to that
to
part.
that part, right. Yeah, because if it was like way far out, then it's like I could see it being harder for an actual person to be like, hey, you guys, you're not supposed to be going out there, because nobody else probably would have been out there with them either. But if it was pretty close, then I'd be like, why wasn't it? And then if it was far out, that will also explain why it wasn't a physical barrier, because maybe that wasn't on Disney's territory.
yeah,
But yeah, but at the same time, if it was closed, I would wonder why it's no physical barrier and why nobody said something. So like you said, it does depend on where this location was. I wish I knew that too.
yeah, there's a lot of different things that could have, been different in this situation.
Yeah, it's so hard to judge, like who's right, who's wrong, what would have happened if this would have happened. It's always so hard to be the judge. That's why sometimes I feel like when we're looking at situations like this, where tragedies happen or where something's happening, when we feel like it's unjust or something, we really have to look at it from an open mind and with a pretty objective perspective, because like before I started talking to you guys just now, I had certain thoughts, and then just this conversation just let me like, oh, I didn't even think about it like that, or oh, you're right. So sometimes it's better when you're analyzing situations like this, it's better to kind of like just come with a clear mind and a clear slate. Like have your opinions definitely, but also be able to look at it from a different perspective.
Okay, so the topic of discussion is the comparison between those who carry a different ethnicity than the Caucasian American standard way, and in comparison to the how do you say the gorilla's name? Harambe, so the gorilla incident in comparison to the Brock Turner incident. If you don't know about the situation already, the story is that a student of Stanford University was found sexually assaulting a fellow student, and was discovered by two Danish visitors. They were just traveling along their way doing a morning workout routine, I believe, and they were riding bikes, and they happened to see him. He fled this situation, and when they approached her, she was completely unconscious. She had no recollection of what was going on. She was unresponsive. She wasn't able to handle the situation. He was tried on 3 counts. One was aggravated assault, sexual assault, and I think assault of someone who was under the influence and unable to respond. It's automatic sexual assault if they are under the influence. It doesn't matter the circumstance. He was found guilty for all 3 counts. However, they lessened his sentence from 6 years to 6 months because they thought that it would have too negative of an impact on his swimming and college career. Then his father later sent a letter to the judge being very sentimental about the situation, claiming that his son is a good kid, that kids make mistakes, even goes so far as describing little intimate details about the boy, like his favorite snacks and how he wouldn't have them in jail, and that it would be too scary for him and too difficult. So the sentence was then lessened to 3 months. I don't know if you guys read the statement on it, but the girl actually did have a very long statement expressing process that she went through, how she was questioned and almost seemed as if she was guilty in the entire situation. Like maybe she had too much to drink, maybe she was flirting or being too provocative, rather than questioning the fact that this boy did take advantage of someone who was not able to even have control of their own self, let alone make questionable judgments, make actual judgments and conscious decisions to be involved with someone.
I think that is just crazy, that piece that you just said where she felt like she was actually on trial and she was actually being like questioned because, you know, they were trying to say that maybe this could have been due to some behavior that she put out there. And I feel like that is just such a cowardly response to rape that a lot of people they go to right away. Like, that's the first thing they go to. A lot of men do it, and some women do it too for some reason, which is ironic to me because I feel like all women should be united. And if you hear that another woman's being raped, you should be trying to defend her instead of condemn her, but that's a whole other story. But anyways, like, it just seems like it's a cowardly way for people to address rape victims. Like, oh, well, you know, maybe you were dressed too provocative, or maybe you should have been more in control of how much alcohol you consumed. And I just feel like that is just wrong. No means no. You should be able, the man or the rapist, whatever, they should be able to have control over themselves and their sexual desires, and they shouldn't force their desires on someone who is not compliant. It's just wrong.
Another thing that I think, like, with the way she was dressed or she had too much to drink situation, I think that's kind of downplaying actual, like, rapists and what they do, is because I don't feel like like, it's not like rape is just something that happens because you see somebody that you like and, oh, they had a short dress on or she looks drunk, so I'm going to rape her. Like, that's not, I don't think that's normal thought process. Like, I think that for somebody to be able to go and rape another person, like, they have to, you know, it's not just, I'm drunk, I'm a rapist now. You know what I mean? I can't explain.
You're trying to say it's like premeditated,
right?
Or it's something that they wanted to happen.
They wanted to happen, or maybe they have, you know, a power infatuation with, like, power. So it doesn't even matter like who that person is that they're raping, or what that person was wearing, or how much that person had to drink. It's really them, like, their satisfaction. So it's kind of like you can't put that all on the girl if she was, you know, dressed a certain way, or she was a little too drunk, because it really was not about her in the first place to begin with. You know what I mean? Like, that's the reason why rapists are rapists is because they are rapists. It's not because other people are dressing certain ways or other people are acting certain ways.
Exactly. I feel like a rapist should be in the same category as like a child molester. And when you think of a child molester, this child molester isn't molesting children because the child is dressed provocatively, or because the child is quote unquote appealing or sexy. They're doing this because they have a sickness, like they have an issue. And so it's the same deal with the rapist. The rapist is doing this because they have an issue. It has nothing to do with the person that they're victimizing. They're just preying on that person because of whatever reason. But the reason why they're a rapist is because they're a rapist and they're sick. The reason why they're a child molester is because they are a child molester and they're sick. You cannot blame that on any other factor. And that should be dealt with. That should never be downplayed. People need to stop downplaying that.
Believe it or not, there are tons of help groups for people who suffer those kinds of illnesses. There are support groups for people who are child molesters, people who find children sexually appealing because they know that there is something wrong with them. So rather than act on it, they seek help. Even those who don't seek help and do it in the privacy of their own home only to be caught on it. I mean, not to justify anything that they do, but anything that they're about, but they're not out harming other people by it. They're not out raping girls. They're not out molesting children. They're trying to stop themselves from being involved in anything like that. They're trying to stop themselves from harming anybody else in the kind of struggles that they're dealing with. And for rapists, there are people who think about it, and again, believe it or not, there's very specific genres for that in the world now. Things that you can read up about, things that you can be involved in, but for you to take it a step further to actually physically assault somebody is just as awful as them going up and shooting her.
Yeah.
Like, you might as well have done that, because your life she's going to have a lot of issues going forward in life.
Yeah.
Especially in this particular case, and especially the way that it's being played out, it seems like he's being babied for the situation. So imagine how that is going to, affect the girl psychologically, feeling that now it seems like she did something wrong. You know what I mean?
And just to add to that, like, this is the reason why so many women are raped and they don't say anything. Because of things like this, where they feel as though if they do come out, A, people won't believe them, or B, people will try to make it seem like it happened because of them, or C, the guy's gonna get off anyway, so what difference does it make whether he's reported or not? So, like, that just adds to the fact that a lot of women are raped and it just goes unsaid and no one knows about it. People just have to, like, grin and bear it.
I mean, it shouldn't have the issue stems from a lot of other beginning reasons. Like, women are afraid to go forward, so more men get away with rape. Women are physically or verbally or mentally abused by other men or other women. So because sometimes the case is that it's the same sex that's being abused and abusive, and they're afraid to speak out on that. People are afraid to speak out on men who are catcalling them. Girls are afraid to speak up because they're being protected by boys who pick on them and being told that it's because of, oh, it's your own fault, or there's just ignore that. It's like, no, we should have the voice. Like, it starts from such a young age where we're taught to just ignore, disregard, or kind of just take a lot of things that come at us as women because we are weaker, or because people think the emotions that we portray are attributed to other aspects that maybe we can or cannot control. I just read a story the other day where a boy was harassing this girl. This was 8th grade, mind you, just a little bit of background. These weren't children, these were people who were well aware of their actions. A boy was harassing a girl and snapping her bra strap, and the teacher was saying, well, why don't you just ignore him, or why are you even feeding into him? Like, just leave him alone.
That's sexual harassment. That is sexual.
And they did not address the issue. The teacher did not go forward. It came down to the point where the girl turned around and punched the boy. Like, she couldn't take it. She physically hit him. And they had a conference, and the girl explained the situation to her mother, and the mother is saying, that is sexual assault. Yeah. You're teaching my daughter that she can't speak up for little things like this, and then come down to her later, maybe possibly in the future, being actually assaulted by someone and having actual, like, severely damaging repercussions, and nobody wants to speak up for that because they're taught at a young age to disregard little things like someone snapping your bra or looking at you inappropriately.
Right.
Like, even the saying, like, if he picks on you, that means that he likes you. Like, I honestly do not like that saying, because nowadays it's kind of like, well, I guess when the saying was popular or when it was made up, like, picking on a girl is kind of like, little things. But now, these kids are really, like, going, like, in on other kids. Like, boys are really, well, not just boys, but, like, the picking on each other is a lot worse than what it was a few years ago.
Yeah, it's a lot more sexual.
Yeah, it's a lot more sexual, and I think it's because America and the world as a whole has become a lot more sexual. So it's kind of like, you can't tell a girl, like, if he picks on you, that means he likes you. Like, that's not relevant anymore.
Yeah. nowadays we have to like really teach young women like what sex, not just young women and men, because we keep teaching women, but we're not teaching men. And this is why we're in situations like this, and this is why men are pacified so much when it comes to situations like this, because no one teaches them. So we need to teach men and women, young men and women, the parameters of sexual assault, what it looks like, what it feels like. Because some people, like, they might feel like they're sexually assaulted, but they don't even know how to process that. So they don't even say anything, you know? So what it feels like, what it looks like, and what you should do if you have ever been sexually assaulted. And we also need to put some responsibility on these, not parents, well, parents too, but guardians and people who are working with the children outside of the home, like school staff, teachers, camp counselors, program directors, what have you. We need to start educating them a little bit more about what you should do in that situation, because there's no reason why a teacher should ever tell a student, oh, just ignore him, oh, he's popping your bra strap, just ignore him. Like, no, that's sexual harassment. She needs to know that she should be able to report that, and he needs to know that he will be held accountable for that. If this was the real world, you know, he would be in jail right now. He would have some charges right now. And so the teacher should have made that clear. There's no reason why students in our situations like this that are happening between students is being dismissed. That is wrong. And any adult who has anything like that happen in their presence, they need to be charged too.
And it is in regards to not only teaching women but also teaching boys. I feel like a lot of men are outraged by cases like this as well, because it's like something that I notice is like, look at how easy it is to not rape someone, yet you're being let off so easy by going through the physical action, taking these very large steps to do that to another person, and you're not being charged the way you should. There are no repercussions for that. And then women start to fear men as a whole. Women don't often see other women as threats, but because a lot of the cases that are brought to light are men against women, women start to feel this discomfort around men in general, or the male gender in general, and that's not fair to men as well. That's not fair that they have to be seen as dangerous people, when a lot of the times that's not the case.
Yeah.
You're going to have boyfriends, husbands, children who will not do harm to you. There are so many men that are only there to protect you, but it takes one man to mess that up for you.
Yeah, that's true. And unfortunately, sometimes you don't always know who that man is. Like, just like Nicole just said, the people in your family, they're the ones that are going to protect you. But sometimes some families do have family members who don't have that agenda. So it does kind of put like a damper on how you view everybody, and it's sad. It's very sad, and it shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't be like that. Everyone should be responsible for their sexual behaviors, and they should think about other people and how they're going to process it before they choose to like inflict their behaviors on you. And we can also talk about what the mother in the Harambe situation said in response to this whole entire case that dealt with the rape of this young woman by this college athlete.
I don't remember verbatim what the quote was, but it was basically along the lines of the fact that because she is an African American single mother at that, I don't know if this was mentioned before, but the father is not exactly participating actively in the young boy's life. So she is a single black mother who is being scrutinized for her, unattentiveness of the child, and it was brought to light that she is being scrutinized so much to the point that she has received death threats for an incident, something that could have happened to anyone. And there are much worse things that happen to children because they're not aware of their surroundings. For example, the Orlando case, where they either chose to ignore the restriction signs or they were not aware of it, and they lost a son because of that. They just lost the child as a repercussion for their negligence, and they're not being tried as so harshly. And she mentioned the fact that she was receiving these death threats as a single black mother, yet you see in the media, not only was Brock Turner not only did he have his graduation photo as his mugshot, he didn't have his mugshot seen until maybe a month after the situation came to light, but he also got a lesser sentence because they were afraid that it would have too harsh of an impact on his background. But no one's questioning the fact that this mother is now receiving death threats, or that she's being seen as a horrible mother, that DHS or the social services are attacking her and constantly watching her now because of something that just was really, I don't want to say necessarily out of her control. I guess as a mother you can be more aware of your children, but because it did happen and because it's a possibility, because mothers should have united with her and understood that it is very hard to lose sight of a child very quickly, she has far larger repercussions on her because of her race, as opposed to someone who physically who made the conscious decision to physically attack someone and does not have anywhere near as many repercussions as someone who had a situation happen to her that was out of her hands.
Yeah, that's tough, because it's always like that. Like whenever the media portrays situations that occur, if the family is a black family and it's some sort of crime that's attached to it, or some type of tragic event that's attached to it, the media always finds a very clever, creative way of making that family or that person look like the worst person ever because they're black. They'll show their mugshot first. They'll show them in a photograph. If it's not a mugshot, it's a photograph where they don't look their best, or they have a very mean, aggressive looking face on, and they don't ever show them smiling. If it's a white family or a white person who is involved in a crime or who is involved in some type of tragedy, when they show that person, when they represent that person on TV, usually it's a portrait. Sometimes they even have family portraits. Sometimes it's portraits with the dogs. Sometimes it's video footage, so you can actually get to see how the person moves and how the person walks and how the person interacts with other people. And it's just like so unfair, because when you look at one side, one race, all you just see is the image. Bam, mad. And that's all you see. And then when you look at a tragedy or a crime event that happened with another side, then you get more of a sympathetic, empathetic, he was just the average guy type of feel, and it's not fair. And when they show that person, when they represent that person on TV, usually it's a portrait. Sometimes they even have family portraits. Sometimes it's portraits with the dogs. Sometimes it's video footage, so you can actually get to see how the person moves and how the person walks and how the person interacts with other people. And it's just like so unfair, because when you look at one side, one race, all you just see is the image. Bam, mad. And that's all you see. And then when you look at a tragedy or a crime event that happened with another side, then you get more of a sympathetic, empathetic, he was just the average guy type of feel, and it's not fair. And it tricks people. The people who are watching, the people who are looking at it, it tricks them, because it automatically makes people think that black people commit more crimes, or that black people are more aggressive, or that black people are more impoverished, or more out of control. And so it paints that image, but it's not because that's what's actually happening or that's actually the case. It's just because of the way that the messages are being delivered out to everyone through the media. So it's like really crazy, and a lot of people kind of like feed right into that, and it makes me so mad. It's like, no, they're making people look bad on purpose. It's a reason why. It's nothing to their madness.
Yeah. The same thing with the Muslim case. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The same thing with the Muslim case. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but one of the images that surfaced was a selfie, and the other one was a family portrait. So, which side do you really go for? He was still very obviously wrong, but why is it that Muslim people are being blamed? There was no sign of him even practicing the religion. There is no other, aside from the information that they gathered on him calling the police, he had no relation to actual Muslim religion or any of the terrorist groups.
Yeah. So that's another thing. So yeah, you see someone of Arab descent in the media, and you know, sometimes that's automatically the thing that's attached to them is Muslim or ISIS or Arab, or you know, sometimes you don't really know, or sometimes that's not even the case. Like that person may not be affiliated with any of those groups. And yeah, that is so true. Like media uses race, media uses social class, and then they use images, and they mess with people's heads, man. They make you think things about those people because they always correlate those people with certain types of images or certain types of media or certain storylines.
And I'm sorry.
Go ahead. That's fine.
It's not just imagery either, or like storyline. It's also like the literature behind it, or you know, the stuff that they say. Like, you know, you guys have, even in the newspapers and the magazines, you gotta pay attention to the headlines. Those are always, you know, you will have a sympathetic headline for, you know, maybe like a Caucasian family, but if a crime happened with a African American family, it's going to have harsher words, and like it's a altogether different language. So in news reporters, the way that they, you know, just the air that they speak, like when something happens with a Caucasian family, they, you know, their voice is very like somber, and you know, they have this very serious kind of empathetic tone to them. But once, you know, something happens with African American or other, you know, race, then it's kind of like they get all fired up, or they get like that intensity behind their voice. So it's kind of like everything is set up to kind of like control the way that you see these people. They want you to see these people the way that they are seeing these people too. So I guess they want everybody on like the same accord, the same thought process on each group of people here.
Yeah, people just eat it up every day. It's just so painful. I hate when I hear like when people are talking about Black Lives Matter. I hate when I hear other black people say, well, black people shoot each other up. It's so much black on black crime. Well, it's way more white on white crime than it is black on black crime. You just don't hear about it. It's way more. And not saying like, oh, one group is better than another group, or one group is worse. It's not even about that. But it's just like, that's how it's being portrayed. And so now it's messing with people's viewpoints, and now when people are actually called to have an informed conversation about the issues, they're using information that is not true, that is not driven off of their own observations and their own experiences, their authentic ones. Is only driven off of the experiences and the observations that the media has created for them. And so, you know, I just wish that more people would open up their eyes and recognize that, so that when we do start having conversations about social things, certain things that are going on socially, people are more informed. And also when we start to try to make changes or try to rally up against something, or fight for our rights or fight for equality, we have a stronger leg to stand on, because now we're dealing with facts instead of BS that is just being fed to us by media. So I really think that that's important. Just analyzing and evaluating the way that certain people are being looked at out there.
I feel like in every situation that the media kind of like displays, you have to go and really do your own research, because a lot of this information is monitored. So it's kind of like you can't just watch the news nowadays. Like, you have to watch the news, you have to read on stuff, you have to search it to really get the full story, because every medium that you go to, every different type of media that you are exposed to, you're going to find out different information, because it's different people behind each one, and it's different people that's monitoring what is fed to you.
And sometimes when you do the research, you still don't come up with the answer.
Right.
Like, you might collect all these different tidbits of information, but really at the end of the day, the only thing that you can rely on is your opinion after reading and researching all those things. So, you know, again, it's just important that when you are considering your opinion after evaluating the facts, you're also cognizant of the fact that the media does certain things purposefully to make you think a certain way, and make sure you don't fall into that trap. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have anything to add to the discussion, make sure you comment below. You could also like this page and subscribe to the blog.